What happens when a lady in charge of USA basketball selections is caught lying about Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever fans on her own podcast? Sue Bird believed she could get away with mischaracterizing Clark's support following as toxic while the cameras were running. She nodded as guests bashed millions of new WNBA fans, then defended her words. But Bird made a key mistake. She had forgotten that everything was being filmed. We now have video evidence of potential prejudice from someone who is supposed to be unbiased in national team decisions. The question is not whether Bird crossed a line. Rather, how long has this been going on? Do you believe Sue Bird when it comes to Team USA selection? Please let us know in the comments below.
A large group of people, mostly that exist online. It wasn't enough, love a player, love Caitlin, love whoever you want to love. But it was simultaneously, they had to then say that every player that ever came before was trash.
No. That is not correct. That's not a thing.
Sue Bird made what appeared to be a typical podcast visit on a touch more with Megan Rapinoe and Katie Nolan. The camera started rolling, and Bird appeared at ease, ready to talk about women's basketball like she had done numerous times before. Nobody expected what happened next to disclose her actual sentiments towards Caitlin Clark and the millions of fans who discovered the WNBA through the Iowa sensation. The chat began with standard topics like the league's expansion and how great it was to see new faces in the spectators. Bird did an excellent job as an ambassador for women's basketball, remarking about improved viewership and attendance. Her tone remained measured and professional as they discussed the positive effects of renewed interest in the sport.
The WNBA this season, I feel like we sort of had one of those particular growing pains where it's like some of the people that are coming in and watching the sport and are fans of the sport feel like maybe they're there for a weird reason. And now they've found sort of maybe one player to hyper-fixate on that they feel stands at odds with what a WNBA player is in their minds. And they passionately love that player in a way that actually just feels like it's hate being disguised as love that they want to have against the rest of the league.
Then Katie Nolan shifted the discussion toward...
Katie Nolan then switched the subject to Caitlin Clark's support base. Nolan began characterizing Clark's followers as troublesome, claiming they were contemptuous to WNBA history and other players. The room's energy altered instantaneously, and Bird's reply revealed everything you needed to know about her true feelings on the subject. You can see Bird head nod excitedly as Nolan continues her critique. Bird's eyes brighten up with agreement when Nolan portrays Clark's fans as being ignorant of basketball history. Her facial expressions indicate genuine enjoyment as the attacks on Clark's followers escalate. Bird was not simply listening nicely. She was enjoying every word. Bird couldn't take it any longer and got into the debate. She went on, for a large group of people, mostly that exists online, it wasn't enough to like a player, like Caitlin, or like whoever you want to like, but it was simultaneously that they had to then say that every player that ever came before was trash. Bird was now actively involved in pulling down millions of new WNBA fans, who had brought the league unparalleled visibility.
Sort of had this moment where the rest of the fans had to go like, you paid the same money for your ticket, and you being here is also helpful to the sport. And that's a really difficult thing to do. They had no sort of reverence for the fact that, like, buddy, this conversation's been going on without you for years and years and years. And now you come in here and just think that you can, because you love this one player, and this one player is very good. She's very, very good. And like, I would love to just openly love them. Those are the types of moments that as a women's sports fan, I like really bristle against, where I'm just like, I hate that we have to go through.
The duplicity becomes evident when you consider Bird's official position. She is USA Basketball's managing director, a role that requires impartiality while evaluating individuals for national team selection. However, she was caught on camera loudly disparaging the fan base of the athlete who single-handedly saved the WNBA from obscurity. Bird's body language throughout the piece suggests that he has been waiting for this opportunity. She leans forward to make her point about Clark's admirers. Her hand motions become more impassioned as she explains the situation negatively. These were not impromptu remarks. Bird had definitely been thinking about it for a long time. The podcast provides incontrovertible proof that Bird is resentful of Clark's success. Every nod, smile, and word of agreement reveals someone who sees the league's biggest breakthrough as a personal threat. Bird believed she could vent her feelings discreetly among like-minded guests, but the cameras caught every instance of bias from someone who was meant to be unbiased while deciding Clark's international basketball future.
Truly did not love that conversation. I don't know what that conversation adds to women's basketball, to the growth of women's basketball. I don't know why we're still bringing up a toxic fan base. I thought it was so condescending to say that so many fans are just latching on to Caitlin Clark for reasons other than the basketball. And that is something that we just continue to see. And it was also crazy because Katie Nolan at the end of this whole bit, she was like, yeah, I don't really watch that many games, but I'm keeping tabs on it. And it's like, that's the reason you had the take that you did. The reason that you had the take that you did is because you're not watching the games. You're not watching what's going on. You're not going to the games. And you clearly said that. You said, I'm a casual fan. I don't really watch the games, but I keep tabs on what's going on.
Bird's sudden hatred towards Clark makes obvious when you look into her NCAA basketball background. She graduated from UConn in 2002, having won 2 national championships there. That bond goes deeper than simply wearing the same jersey. It shaped Bird's perspective on the game, and which players deserve praise. The same podcast in which Bird criticized Clark's fans also featured a passionate defense of Paige Bueckers. Bird went out of her way to explain that Bueckers deserved a lot more media attention than she was receiving. When she mentioned the UConn star, her tone shifted dramatically. She had dropped her criticism and distrust of Clark fans. Instead, Bird spoke about Bueckers with genuine excitement and protectiveness.
Why isn't Paige, probably what people think is, why isn't she as popular as Caitlin? But do you think Paige should be more popular? And Paige deserves more, and Angel Reese deserves more, and Asia, and Fee, and. Yeah.
I think specific to Paige, you might argue her popularity and the people that are fans of her has been underrated, which shocks.
Bird particularly asserted that Bueckers receives just approximately 16% of the media coverage that Clark does. She presented this number as if it reflected a great injustice that required immediate rectification. As she made this point, her voice was filled with frustration, as if she had been brooding about this perceived slight for a long time. The timing exposes Bird's genuine intentions. She spends one portion criticizing the fan base of the player who drew unprecedented attention to women's basketball. Then she pivots to developing a UConn product that she believes needs the same level of attention. Bird never stops to realize that Clark earned every ounce of attention by breaking decades-old records and attracting millions of new fans to the sport. Bird's logic falls when you study what she is actually saying. She claims that the athlete who single-handedly salvaged the WNBA from obscurity receives too much praise. Meanwhile, she wants the media to artificially raise Bueckers' coverage to match Clark's organic popularity. This is not about fairness. It's about Bird utilizing her big platform to promote athletes from her former school while downplaying Clark's accomplishments.
That we're still doing this. Really. There is this seeming desire to be able to wish or will other players into Caitlin Clark's level of popularity. And that is not something you can just make happen. You can't say it and make it the case.
UConn allegiance extends beyond sentiment. Bird now has tremendous power as USA Basketball's managing director, with direct control over national team roster decisions. She's essentially leveraging her position to openly promote players from her alma mater while also attacking the league's biggest star. Bird advises that media outlets restructure their coverage to give backers more exposure. She never mentions that Clark earned that coverage by giving performances that captivated audiences around the country. Bird treats media attention as if it should be distributed evenly rather than owned by excellent play and fan involvement. The conflict of interest becomes impossible to overlook. The person in charge of evaluating players for Team USA is publicly pushing against the player who has drawn more attention to women's basketball than anyone in recent memory. Bird's UConn bias isn't only visible, it's influencing her decision-making in ways that may jeopardize Clark's worldwide career chances. Bird's words indicate a person who sees Clark's success as a danger to UConn basketball's history rather than a positive development for women's sports in general.